Welcome to the Granny Square series. This week you can learn how to make the cluster granny square. These have been made with Stylecraft Special DK acrylic yarn in wisteria and clematis. For the tutorial I will be using this moonstone from the Stonewash range, and the pattern is similar. We've already made the puff square and the popcorn square, and the pattern is very similar. So to begin, I'm making a double magic circle with a 4mm hook. Chain one, and we're going to be using 3 stitch clusters using US doubles, UK trebles, making 3 stitches per cluster. So my first stitch I'm going to chain again, so that's chain 2, and then I'm just going to make 2 stitches together, US doubles, UK trebles, and that will be my first stitch. Then we're going to chain 4, and that's our repeat. So we're going to do that 3 more times. We're going to make a 3 stitch cluster, and chain 4. So I'll see you at the end of the round. I'm just making my last stitch and then chain 4. And then we're going to tighten up the circle. And then slip stitch into the first cluster you made to join, and then slip stitch into the chain 4 space, and that's how the end of round 1 should look. So for round 2 we're going to chain 2 and then make our first cluster the same way we did with the last round, using that chain 2 and then 2 stitches. So we're starting in the corner. We're then going to chain 4 for the corner, make a second cluster into that space with 3 stitches, and then we chain 2, and that's our repeat. So we're going to do the same thing in each corner, make a 3 stitch cluster, chain 4, and then another 3 stitch cluster, chain 2, and then hop across to the next corner. So you can press pause if you're making along with me, and I'll see you at the end of the round. I'm just making my last stitch now. And then chain 2, and I'm back at the beginning. So I'm going to slip stitch into the first cluster, and then slip stitch into the chain 4 space, and that's how your square should look at the end of round 2. So round 3 we're starting our repeat in the corner. We're going to chain 2. We start each round in the corner, and then we make the first cluster with 2 stitches in the chain. Chain 4 for the corner, and then we make our second cluster into the same space, chain 2, and we make a cluster into the chain 2 space, 3 stitches with the US doubles, UK trebles. chain 2, and we're at the next corner. So we just repeat all the way around, 2 stitches in the corner with a chain 4 space. That's 2 cluster stitches, yeah, and then 2 chains along the edge, yeah. And I'll see you back at the end of the round. I'm just making my last stitch now, chain 2, and I'm back at the corner, so I'm going to slip stitch into the first cluster and then slip stitch into the chain 4 space. And that's how it should look at the end of round 3. So for round 4, we start in the corner again. We're going to chain 2, make a 3 stitch cluster. So again, we're going to just make 2 stitches for this starting stitch, chain 4, and then another cluster stitch using 3 stitches. Chain 2. So we go into each chain 2 space with a cluster, making chain 2 between, and then in the corners it's 2 stitches, chain 1 cluster, chain 4, 1 cluster, yeah. So chain 2 into the next chain 2 space, we'll make 1 cluster, and chain 2, and we're at the corner. So we're going to make one cluster, chain 4, 1 cluster, and then going along the edge, 1 stitch, 1 cluster stitch in each chain 2 space with chain 2 between, yeah. And I'll see you at the end of the round. I'm just making my last stitch now. Chain 2, and then we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, the first cluster, to join, and then however you like to tie off your work. So give that a block. Oops. Yeah, it's pretty, isn't it? And that will match up with the other granny squares in the series. I hope you enjoyed making that. If you're still watching, please like, share or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.